we've officially had the airing of grievances off air, or am I talking through that weird first 3 seconds where it makes everyone freeze up? Anyway, we don't do intros here at the Hyperformance podcast. Tim Riley's back for episode 2. I'm just looking at, I don't have any questions written down. So my prep was, I was writing down themes to stimulate conversation. I'm just going to list them all here to prime us. So I've got rotisserie chickens,
I was about to say that too.
acceleration, dunks, plyos, career end game, Instagram adding unskippable ads. And I'm not going to say the last one because that was in the airing of grievances. So just to gas Tim up a little bit more before he has his turn to yap, Tim is I put it out to my GPP community. Who do you want to see on the show in terms of new guests or repeat guests? You were the second most requested return guest. Sorry, you were the most requested return guest in the community. The only person who had more requests for the show was to get Austin on for an initial appearance.
Wow.
But to have that level of intensity and fever within the community when you're back on the show, that's a huge tick in my book. So shout out to Tim Riley. Thanks for coming on again, because I know you're a busy man. It's a busy time of year for you. Give people the elevator pitch intro because they can skip that. I felt like the last episode, we did such a sick job of your origin story, if I do say so myself, and you did a great job of delivering it. Give us elevator pitch, who is Tim Riley, and then give us an update what's happening now.
Sure. So thank you for everyone who requested to have me back on, because that's fucking awesome. I'm Tim Riley. I'm the director of sports performance at The Collective in Austin, Texas. And I've been training as a sole vocation now for fucking 8 years. And I started working with Gen Pop. Did that for a long time, realized I wanted to work with athletes, progressed from middle school, high school, collegiate. I've been working with pro and collegiate athletes now primarily for the past 3 years. I like to talk shit on Instagram with my strength and conditioning friends. And I've got a podcast called Coach 'em Up now. And God, Angus, any way I could get you out to the States, please, I would love that. But that's where I'm at. That's what I'm up to these days.
I'll be there early 2025 at the latest. We can't even get into rotisserie chickens yet, because you just highlighted something that I really look up to about your career. And because something that I really struggle to give people advice on is every up and coming S&C coach with stars in their eyes, they want to work with pro athletes. And I feel like the way that they go about it is just a recipe for heartbreak, trying to work their way up through systems and organizations and stuff. Whereas I think two of the things that you did really well was you always acted like you were at the big show from the start. Like I always felt like the passion that you had for training high school and early level college athletes is like the same passion that I still see you have with your pro level athletes now. But you didn't go do internships. I know you did a lot of work for free and stuff like that, and you showed up and you put the effort in, but it just seems you're like, where are the athletes here and now that I can work with? And then I would just try to get them a result, and I hope that they yap to other people, or it allows them to make content and then work with an athlete at the next level. And there's just been, from my perspective, this very clear linear progression. But it seems like you did it in a way where you maintained a bit more control over the situation, not throwing yourself into a big organizational structure where you have no leverage and you'll get lost. Was this intentional, or did it just kind of work out because you worked hard?
So my plan was originally, I started training. It became clear, all right, athletes where I want to be. I'm working with like local high school, middle school athletes in the Woodlands, Texas. And I'm enrolled at the community college there. And guys, I'm a high school dropout. Okay. I had some remedial classes I needed to take. I needed to run back over algebra. Okay.
Teach me how to add up and count reps first.
Listen, I can count to 20, motherfucker. And I know what a couple 45s and a 25 add up to, but so that's the path I'm on. And that's the path that I'm thinking. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the school and I'm going to get the exercise science degree or whatever. And then I'm going to intern. I'm going to do all this stuff. And if I'd had it my way, that's what I would have done. Life shows up and I get moved to Austin, Texas. And I think, well, I'm screwed here. And I said, no, I'm going to do everything I can to continue to put myself in front of athletes. And it's odd because I would still almost certainly be working. If everything goes according to the plan I had, I'm working at some shit college, maybe head strengthening conditioning coach, making very poor money, not anywhere really closer to where I was wanted to be. Honestly, like in all likelihood, that's what happens. And it so happened that instead of going that route, life showing up, moving me off of, I have to move. No, I have to unenroll from classes. The process of just actively trying to put myself in a position to be with and around people who were doing the thing already ended up being such a blessing and a shortcut. It was a shortcut.
So is that your big rock? You're like, just make sure I can look around and identify people that are doing the thing that I want to do around me. And if there's just enough of that, and I'm always maintaining that, I'll get closer to that.
Yes and no. Cause there was this period of time where dude, I was just treading water trying to make money, dude. I couldn't afford. I couldn't fucking afford to even, but even then, I was doing mentorships. I was continuing to learn online and stuff. And I was taking here's an important piece, buying people's programs who do the damn thing and doing the programs. Buy program, do program, dude. Like that is a way of life.
There's so much download program and leave it in the emails. Just based off, I'm looking at YouTube videos on the exercise tutorials in free programs, paid programs, and just sort of correlating that in my head with downloads and sales. I'm like, oh, okay, there's a lot of distribution and then just sitting in people's emails.
Mm-hmm. And doing that, learning. So I'm learning. And then naturally, throughout the course of that process, I'm seeing how these athletes I'm training, perhaps, this new method or this new way of thinking or this new lens of doing things, let me try and lace that in and see how they respond to it. So it was a very organic way of refining my coaching craft. And what that did is when I did get opportunities to, put myself in a position to work or, intern really, with people who were doing the thing that were willing to take a chance on me, I had the acumen. I was just able to deliver. And I think honestly, dude, too, I've talked about this on other podcasts, but I get along with most people, I can walk into most rooms and I can kind of get a pretty good feel of who I'm going to vibe with and who I'm not. And when it comes to coaching, the traditional strength coach aura is not me. It's just not, dude. And I think it's been actually one of my biggest assets because I like to think, this statement in of itself is a contradiction, that my ego doesn't precede me most places. I've had some lows, guys.
Is this do you think being a junkie early in your life just gives you a certain aspect of humility?
Bro, yes. And there's shit I can pick up in people that other people miss. And I'm hey, and I can it's like parcel tongue for other people who have been through tremendous amounts of trauma. And but there's a level of emotional intelligence that I've had to really work for that I think honestly gives me an opportunity to connect with people. The good news is if that's not a skill set you have, it is a skill set. It's like anything else. You can refine that and you can improve it. And, mine was it was a natural process, and it was out of necessity. But I do believe that in combination with constantly wanting to learn and wanting to experiment on myself. And then when I got my opportunities, I was just, it was right time, right place,
I think a lot of self-identifying intelligent coaches don't want to spec into charisma because their ego tells them that they can just prescribe a better exercise, prescribe a more accurate intensity, science, just spec out the science and the tangible aspect.
You know what else too?
You look at all the cult leaders who just get people to want to be in the room with them and get people to believe in, and you can bring that to the table while still having the more tangible stuff, right? And I look at you as an embodiment of that, whether it's conscious or not.
And unfortunately, I don't have the Kool-Aid or any of the other cool stuff that comes along with the cult.
Because can I ask you something? Because I disagree a little bit. I agree with the framing of it. I know you're not starting a cult, but the way when I am mentoring people when it comes to building the business online, I tell them, I'm you need to look at what you are doing as propaganda creation. Like you might want to be evidence-based and you'd be like, yeah, like I will update my thoughts as I run into new information and things like that. But then there's something to be said. So I've been trying to come up with core tenets for GPP. Because again, like why are things like FP, why are things like Liver King, like why are they so easy to indoctrinate people into? Because when someone says, what do you like about this? If I can empower them with 5 to 10 catchphrases that sum up the GPP core philosophy. So like when I think about that, I'm like, okay, so training variously is one of them. We're all humans first and foremost is one of them. All qualities stay in the program year round. Shout out to Matt Watson. Like, I'm like, those are sort of, and I feel like you have those. I don't know if you like explicitly say them, but like if I was looking at Tim Riley, the training that you put out, I'm like, all right, they love lifting. Like they're not afraid, but they're not like traditionalists. Like they love their machines. They'll hop on a leg extension. So it's like progressive strength training, but then it's also like knowing that that's not the whole thing, but then it's not this like, well, let's reject traditional strength training. There is a lot of like, you like a bit of rolling around, not like full Austin yoga, but you're friends with him. You'll explore that stuff.
Totally.
Matt Watson's like the plyo sort of side of things.
Yeah, I would say
so where are you at with that in terms of building it out and creating, like, I know propaganda is like such a hated word, but like, and how do you view how you promote your system, I guess?
Propaganda is just a promotion of an idea, you know, and, or a concept or a theory. And, you know, I think the context, much like anything, is like, you know, what are your intentions on how you're using this, you know? And I think if I had to say, you know, what are some core tenets of like my philosophy or like training is, and I've said this a lot, and if Kelly, my girlfriend, were in the room, her eyes would roll into the back of her head and her retinas would detach.
No, that's good.
But
this is true core philosophies then.
Yes, I don't want to be right. I want to get it right. I don't want to be right. I want to get it right. And I think that that's such a, because like, look at, you know, people who look at FP, look at ATG, look at these philosophies who say, this, my way is the correct way. You know, you're offering a solution, guaranteed, confidence. With such arrogance, right? And, you know, I'm going to say, hey, here are the things that I've seen work in these circumstances. I believe in it because I've done it and I've repeated it. Here's that. Give that a shot. Holler at me when you're done. And I for me, it feels more authentic. It feels genuine. And as opposed, because here's the other problem too. When you, or when a person, a group of people, when you assign yourself to a single philosophy or a single method, you become a prisoner to that. And change becomes your fucking enemy. You inherently, consciously or subconsciously, are going to have a propensity to reject, ignore, or suppress new ideas, particularly ones that are contrary to your beliefs, right? And so long, and you know, the fucking most beaten saying in all of strength and conditioning is, yes, we all have biases. That's not quite what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something.
Yeah, that's not like having a membership card and going to like monthly meetings, doing raids on people's comments and going, they posted about us. Ah! Like
literally, like, you know, I've had comments where, you know, I'm like, hey, you know, here's these exercises. Here are some better options, I think. And I get DMs and it just says, you fucking moron. Like people are angry, you know. Which I enjoy. I'm not gonna lie, I get a real thrill from that. So yeah. Anyway, to bring it all back around, I'm going on a rant here, but you know, the idea of like I like the things I like, and I'm unapologetic about that, and I like them because like I just seen it work, and I know that if the things that I like and I prefer aren't the things that are going to work, I don't do them. I do something else. I try something else, you know?
Because like my retort to the people who are always like, oh, well, there's always infinite methods to achieve your goal. Well, I'm like, well, yeah, like, and that's why I let my bias pick it, because I'm acutely aware of what's good enough to fucking work. Oh, sorry. Yep. And then it's a combination of my biases and then who am I working with? Like, what do you like? Of all this stuff, if you love your knees over toes, if you see someone doing a split squat with 12 kilo dumbbells in their hands, getting 16 inches of dorsiflexion, and that literally, like, you watch compilations of that as your pre-workout, I'm going to do some KOT fucking split squats. I'm yet to run into that person. I've only ever met people who are like, no, you can't do back squats. They'll give you imbalances. You've got to isolate the BMO as best as you can, right? And follow it up with the tips. I'm like, that's where I get, like, KOT split squats, tip raises are a fucking problem. Just to reiterate the people who criticize me for criticizing it. But yeah, it's just, and again, this is just big old fucking circle jerk on the Hyperformance podcast. We love it. We love it. I love coaches who lean into their biases, because I think it's coaches who are unaware that humans do have a natural proclivity to lean into their own biases, that are unconscious of where their biases are leading them. And that's the problem with the bias.
That is a problem.
Because to have bias is to be human. It's when you are oblivious to it, when you lack the self-awareness, like, why do I always go for the back squat? Or like,
what the fuck?
For me, it's the front squat. Like, why is that? And it's like, it's because you fucking like it. You know deep down that there's more options. Everyone does. Yeah. Like, it's just, but in the evidence-based area, I feel like we have good scientific evidence for doing things that you like that still work. You know, like, because I'm like, what the fuck else is your decision-making process? Because everything washes out in the data. Like, all the shows, squats versus hip thrusts. I'm like, I know which one I'm picking. I don't want to put away 6, 12, 20 kilo fucking plates training someone who's not even that strong.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, no shit on hip thrust.
And, like,
how many of you guys do hip thrust? What are your thoughts on hip thrust?
I used to do them all the time. I don't do them anymore. I don't.
Too many plates.
And it's too many plates. And listen, I have a hip thrust machine at Collective, but the machine sucks. So it's like, and trust me, there have been periods of time where, let's say a person, it appears that it would be helpful for them to develop that muscle. I put them on the fucking machine. We do the machine, like we do the thing. But is it like something? Is it a staple? Is it a part of my bias? Collage of things that I tend to gravitate towards. If you just give me an athlete and say let it rip, nah, not anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I just felt like, because what I like about the hip thrust is it's simple. Like, people won't fuck it up. So like, I like in an unsupervised context. I guess I'm still not prescribed. Am I trying to think of a justification for it? Like,
it's good ego when an athlete sees that amount of plates on each side.
I'm pretty sure I still have cheat. I still have, and when I'm programming for most people, I should say this, I think I still have it in cheat code. I can't even remember. I've done like another update, but like, that's one of those things for most people, probably going to get a lot of return on that investment for a while, Yeah. And then you get to the point, like most things are like, maybe not, Yeah. But
where you blow your back out, not doing the exercise, but cleaning up after, and you're like, maybe I'll go on to something more challenging to load up.
And at this point, to that point too, Jacob said it. I don't do things more if something's too inconvenient for me anymore. I don't do it. I won't. If it's too much setup, if it's too much, like it would really have to be a specific circumstance. Where it's like, this guy needs this thing. Okay. Yeah. But all things equal, I'm going to pick the thing that's easier and faster. If they like it and the movement's good, we're doing that. Yeah.
I definitely feel like that's a lot of my exercise selection for sure. It's just based on friction in the gym and like, I can't be bothered just setting this up. We're doing this. That's like, as bad as it sounds as a coach, like that's a lot of my thought process.
That's how you survive, by coming to those realizations earlier in your career, not like after your third mental breakdown from like the giant plate cleanup after like a leg press session. Because that's it as well. Like NFL guys, like even doing like front squats, it's like, what, you got to still throw like 4 blues aside versus you whip out like 120 on a pendulum and just fuck them up for the week.
You're speaking my language. You're speaking my language.
From watching you do that. I think it's usually about a bit more than one on the pendy, but
well, dude, I mean, that thing's so it's such a, like a offensive, thing to be reintroduced to, or to be introduced to your first time. A lot of these guys who are capable of squatting double body weight or whatever, you get them on there the first time and they're like 2 plates max and they're fucked up and they're like, no. And me being, trying to be a reasonable coach, I'm like, listen, we're taking this 3 to 4 reps in reserve each set. We're doing about 5 reps. We're going to ease you into this thing. And even then, like, guys are like, I've never felt my quads like this, I'm like, oh, well, let's keep doing that, So.
Yeah. Something I'm sort of curious about, we're sort of in our brief catch up and airing of grievances before we hit record, you're sort of talking about, so you work with a whole bunch of different athletes at a whole bunch of different levels in a whole bunch of different sports. The big thing that I see though from you is like working with a lot of top NFL talent, whether it's prepping people for their first combine, that transition from end to college career to the professional career, but currently working with a lot of your pro guys in the off season. What does that look like in terms of what is your role there? Is it like, obviously you don't want people deteriorating through the off season, but I also know that there's just like a lot of constraints and you have to be like realistic about what you can achieve as well. So how do you look at like, what are you trying to do for these people in their off season, or is it specific to each athlete, like different needs? Talk to us about that.
You kind of encompassed the art and balance of what the fuck am I doing here? Because depending on the athlete, let's say someone gets into off season early, and you're going to have them for 8 weeks in a row, you can get some work done, And I think as a general philosophy, if I have one regarding the off season, guys, now S&C and sprinting during the week and stuff, that has made its way into the NFL. It's more of a thing now, but it's a lot less of a thing than you might think still.
Right.
And so I view it as an opportunity. Like, you're only getting slower throughout the course of the season. And so it is this opportunity where, in my opinion, if you're there for enough time, the goal needs to be to improve performance, build the engine, have a lot of variety, improve, the capacity, whatever you want to call it, right? Be the most robust athletic version of yourself you can going into the season, and do it in a way that leaves you feeling good, which is it can be a tough needle to thread, right? So there's that. And then you have the individual piece. So the larger your groups, as you know, it can become more difficult. I've gotten good at it, because I am in a situation where I have interns and I can really start to dial in and say, hey, you're responsible for this guy and this guy. They're not back squatting. They're going to be on the hack squat. So-and-so is on the whatever, whatever changes that need to be made. But auto-regulation is my best friend. It just is, because a lot of these guys, they're young, they're millionaires. They've trained, they're like, Tim, I'm going to be here for 8 weeks and we're going to shave, a tenth and 1,500ths off my 40 or whatever. I'm like, all right, sign me up. And then 4 weeks go by, they've done great. And they're like, by the way, I'm going to Vegas for a week. And I'm like, all right, well, cool.
Yeah.
Live your
first time being a millionaire. Yeah, must be nice.
Yeah, right. Act like you've been here before, buddy. So, when guys, I try and ramp guys up over the course of 3 and 4 week periods, and I'm getting feedback, and we do testing and all the stuff to try and be objective with the subjective. I honestly believe the subjective does more good than any of the objective stuff 90% of the time. But, so they go on a trip and then they come back and it's like, the program for this guy just changed. We're back to, lower RPEs. For accessories, we're talking 2 to 3 reps in reserve, and we're just going to start that process over again. And the good news for me is that these guys are such gifted athletes that, like, even limited exposures to at or near peak intensities for short amounts of time, it all comes back. It just comes back. Like these guys, like, but I think, going about it in a way that's practical and simple and what's commonsensical to me has been really helpful.
I feel like coaching, as you start working with better athletes, is like the trap is gaslighting yourself into thinking that you need to pull some advanced maneuvers, but it's typically that their context is so complicated that it forces you, if anything, to simplify even more, is what I'm hearing from you. And like it marries up with my experience working like a microcosm of what you do. One thing, because I know Jacob's got a few burning questions, I'll hand it to him in a little bit. I thought it was really interesting and it makes a lot of sense to me that you really focus on like top speed as a quality. Because again, you feel like that's something that, again, a lot of clubs are changing their ways with it, but it seems to be something that is neglected. And I even saw clips from your podcast with Daniel Back, jump science, sprint science. It was something he sort of picked up on as well. Like even like, not even over the course of the season, but over the course of an athlete's career, maybe losing a lot of that top end. Nathan Kiley, friend of the show, he works in cricket sort of thing, he said that there is a lot of research where if you want to be, sorry, not a lot of research, there is a bit of research where if you want to be overpaid as a professional athlete, be fast. Because and it makes sense to me because when scouts are just looking at a play and you're like, oh, fuck, like we've got these two guys, it's like, I'm picking the faster one every time. It's just a horny attribute.
It really is, dude. It is. It totally is. Yeah, and I see that all the time. Guys get more contracts than they should. I say should. They get more contracts. They get more opportunities. They get more looks if you're a step faster. And because at that level in any sport, particularly field sports, where it's like the skills are pretty on par. The size and weight, the ideal for that position, it's all on par. It kind of does eventually always come down to, it's like, well, what's the one quality that separates the two literally? And it's the step. And so it's an easy thing for coaches to say too. Dude,
I know fat. Even amongst the NFL, like at playing football, not necessarily, I know obviously he's pretty quick, but is he even amongst NFL guys, absolute lightning or...
He's on, so like it's tough because like lightning for the NFL now I think has moved. You got to be 4.3 and down. That's lightning. Most skill guys are 4.4 guys, and Bijan's a 4.4 guy. He's low mid 4.4. And then another thing other people don't talk about is like when these guys run the combine, that all they've been doing is sprinting 3 times a week. Like it's been a track program getting into that place.
Okay.
These guys, they don't run a lot of them. Plenty of them do, but a lot of the guys who run upper 4s or mid 4s at the combine don't do that on a given day. If you just walk out to the field.
40-yard is almost the marquee event for at least a lot of positions for the
combine.
100%. Yeah.
100. Like Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy broke the record this year. He went to Texas in Austin, and I trained him a handful of times previously. Nice. Nick Hill did his draft prep with Exos, and he ran a 4.21 and broke the record. He came in and trained with me.
This is the guy I've seen doing resisted sprints.
He came in and trained with me 4 days after.
Like the Bromell start.
I was like, oh, I mean, just, and I've been training guys, 4.3, 4.4 guys. It was so much faster. And just, like, jump off I was like, oh my God, keep your composure. Like, act like you've been here before. That was fucking fast.
Yeah, and he won't respect you if you're there gushing over it.
Yeah, just like, I was like, good rep. But internally, I'm like, for fuck's sake, what did I just see, dude? It was incredible. So that, now obviously he's the most extreme example, but yeah, like blistering speed in the NFL are not necessarily the guys who at the combine ran well, but the guys who play that fast. And that is a totally different quality to be able to take that speed and have it translate on the field. And I think that's where GPS has really kind of been quite a big deal because just because you can run a straight line really, really fast isn't necessarily indicative of the game speeds that you're playing at.
Yeah. So circling back to the original point, with working with athletes. It was my original dream, then back to the Gen Pop, accepting my fate. And then sort of now I'm like, okay, I want to work with some athletes. So someone in my position where I have the gratefulness to have a platform like being online, is there any way you would leverage, an online platform to get athletes just like as a backdoor way of getting there? Or would you say, get in the trenches still, or even a balance? Like, what are your thoughts? Like, what's the messaging around social media and stuff like
God,
that?
what a great question. I think training athletes, training Gen Pop, the saying, it takes money to make money. You got, if the more you're doing the thing and the more that's the thing you say you're doing, the more you're going to get of the thing, and that was my experience, where it's like, this is what I'm going to do. And this is what this is my messaging. This is how I'm going to, and so you begin to track that, or at least that was my experience. And then, you have some good outcomes, people talk, you create relationships, and that kind of grows. And then, for me, I did, it's like, hey, I just have to start saying, I want to work with athletes, and start reaching out and start broadcasting that in some way. And then paralleling that. So that's like the action. That's like one action item. And then like paralleling that is like, who's doing that I like, who I look at, who's in my immediate circle, who's like a good person that doesn't suck. It's like, like not only would I mind, doing what they're doing, but like not spending a lot of time with. And for me, like what I did was like, hey, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll work for free. I'll do the stuff. And honestly, with someone like you, because you have an online platform and you have people who follow you and you're able to make some overhead to kind of carry you along the way, like you're in an even better position to make that happen. Because, you can still float a little bit, and you can take some more risks if that's the thing. Like if like you're waking up in the morning, you're like, oh, damn it,
fucking kid.
I want to. Yeah. I had now, but here's the other thing. So here's the deal. And because I have a pet peeve about this. I'm going to go on a mini rant. People who say they made it or they got to where they're at without help, or I did it on my own. Fuck you. You're a liar, because it's not the truth. I had so many fucking people say yes to me when they could have just as easily been like, get fucked. And I can't quantify the reason or how that, I don't have any explanations for that, but a lot of people offered me the opportunity for me to show up and get the job and have the, you know what I mean? And I think there's a lot of luck involved, at least in my story. But I do feel, I know that I did the work, so I had the confidence. You know what I'm saying?
Because I think that it goes two ways in S&C as well. Like, and I think it's important to acknowledge it's not a perfect meritocracy. Like, the best coaches do not get paid the most. They do not work.
Not even close.
And how do you define the best coach again? Because like I'm thinking of that from a stereotypically, like again, they know the textbook back to front. Again, thinking about it from that perspective.
Listen.
But then there's the opposite where it's just like the hyper Nepo babies, just all they know is networking. But then I just feel like it's like you can't reject it. You just have to look at the realities of the situation, be like, okay, I can't sit here being like, oh, it's all nepotism, oh, it's all what you know, and then just be whinging about my career when I'm not going out of my way to just talk to me like, hey, like, is there anything I can do for you? Do you need anything? Like, what's going on? Without being annoying. Yeah, I just feel like there's so many things that can kind of go either way that you do a great job of walking the tightrope with. Because again, like when I think of an example of someone who I have seen go out of their way to network with people, but who is not that annoying LinkedIn guy where I'm like, no,
and they just
exactly
suck,
where
dude. Yeah. There's something to be said. Just be fucking cool, dude. Like, just be, and trust me, like plenty of times where I've walked away from like an interaction and been like, I don't know that I really like the way I went about that. And I'm going to clean that up, like, I'm going to try and suck a little less,
No, that's a good one. Because I think a lot of people will walk out of an awkward social interaction and feel weird about it, and then not have the balls to go back and be like, hey, whatever I said there, I'm sorry. Like, that obviously came across the wrong way.
That was weird.
That's on me. Like,
yeah, dude.
Make people feel good.
Yeah, dude.
I'm curious to get your perspective on, because I know your partner I'm assuming there's a pretty big e-com side to her brand. And I wonder if is she like hassling you, be like, Tim, we could be anywhere. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if she loves Austin and stuff like that. I'm making a lot of assumptions here, but like, what's your end game? Are you like, yeah, maybe at some point I will unshackle myself from the face-to-face world, like show myself, like I've done the thing, you know? What are your thoughts on it?
Man, you know, it's tough. I know that I look at Kelly and the success, I mean, and meteoric just in the past 2 years, going from like 60,000 followers on Instagram to I think like 700,000 now. She's got 2 million. We go places. We went to Walmart the other day. Do they have, I'm going to ask a very American question, so please forgive me.
We know
do they have Walmart in Australia?
We got Costco.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so basically same thing. Walmart's just way trashier. So we're in Walmart because we were in a pinch, and which by the way, I classify as a Walmart person, people. So don't think I think I'm above it. Anyway. So we round the corner, and this woman's walking down the aisle, and she sees Kelly, and she said, "Oh my God, you're Kelly Matthews," and then she started to cry, and like these interactions.
Holy. No, because she's huge. I'm sure there's so many girls who are lifting weights and mad about their strength training, like literally because they saw Kelly.
100%. And like people, women come up to me all the time and go, "Are you Kelly Matthews' boyfriend?" And I say yes. And they say, "Is she here?" And I say no. And they're like, "Dang," and they walk away.
Yeah, they don't even bother hanging around, be like, "Oh, so
or they'll go into, they're like, "She's such an inspiration. She's the reason why I do her training program on ladder." And so I say all that to say that as a preface to say she's been very inspirational, because like I see her doing her thing. I see the impact she's able to have, and the integrity, the honest to God integrity with what she's been able to uphold and maintain throughout the whole process. She's doing very well financially. She could be making
any bullshit.
No, she could be making 10 times the money, guys. And it was never, ever once about that. It's nice, but she always put her principles and the way she wanted to show up first. And like, that's one of the things we've aligned on just as people in general. You know, that's more of a personality thing, I think.
It would be so awkward for you even because you publicly, I know her brand's a lot bigger than yours, but then if your partner was this charlatan, be like, yeah, here's your 14-day shred shake, and then you're just there like, but yeah, like I said, like, it is this thing where your values seem to overlap like that.
It would make it tough.
Because people say that you can't do it in that space as well without selling some bullshit, and that's just kind of proof like you can stay in the pocket.
And this brings me to my answer. You know, I want to grow as large in our space as I can. Honestly, that's my goal. But not at the expense of my values and what I believe to be true, and do it in a way that upholds my integrity around like what the fuck I honestly believe. And I don't know that, you know, within our little corner of social media and our world, that there's been that many people who have been able to transcend to a place where their platform is way bigger than just that, and have been able to do it in a way where they're not telling you that, you know, you got to buy this tib bar, you know? And I you know, and I don't even necessarily, and I don't even want to compare myself to that, frankly. But you get what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm excited at the prospect of growing and having the biggest reach possible, but doing it the way that I think is right. And so that it's kind of a vague answer. I don't know that like I have like it's like, oh, well, once I get to a place where I'm sick of training, I'll just start doing mentorships and stuff. I don't know. But
forget about the 3-letter man. It's like, because even someone with Kelly's size page could just justify saying a bunch of bullshit, because I think what a lot of them come back to, they're like, oh, I'm still just getting people active. Because genuinely, once you are people do that, it's like you are that page that maybe is getting people into the weight room. I feel like all the people who follow me, I didn't get them into training. They follow me because someone else already got them into it. But then at a certain point, I feel like you lose the accountability to have a truly good system at every layer, like to its core, because you'd be like, no, I got people excited about exercise. I sold them a bunch of dog shit. I gave them a bunch of incorrect beliefs, but there's an obesity epidemic and I got people moving. And like, there's
it's virtue signaling.
Like, 100%.
It's virtue signaling. Listen, I've made some posts and said like, hey, there is no such thing as the most important exercise. Or I've made posts and said that, hey, these are fine if you like to do them. Here are some other options that probably are going to have more return on your investment.
That you won't have to pretend to like.
Right. And I've seen in response to me doing that, other people in the space go to their story, make a post and say, we shouldn't be tearing each other down. We should be lifting each other up. And it's like, no, fuck you and fuck that, dude. Because here's the deal. Like virtue signaling that someone is just getting someone moving and that's great and that's good enough. That's like co-signing the gateway drug just because you can. It's like, no, I don't want to hear that. Like people, you can get people moving and also not be a piece of shit. How about that?
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
Like
they're
you know
not
what I'm
mutually
saying?
inclusive, and you can be charismatic, and you can get a lot of fucking attention.
Yeah, and also it's like okay, so let me get this straight. You're telling me that the barrier to entry for you to get on board with someone is that they get people moving. What the fuck are we talking about?
Why we have functional patterns. This is why people tolerate things like that. Because they got someone. Sorry, it's not the main apologist reaction, but it leads to justification. Again, they're getting people 12.
At least they're moving.
It's better than being in a gutter or sitting on the couch. I'm like, I don't know. I'll take some couch time. Won't take the gutter. I'll take couch time.
I don't know. Functional patterns may be fun. Try taking Molly on the weekend with your friends. That's fun too. I don't know. But like, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Really opens up as soon as you get high.
Like, but you know, I think it's okay. And here's the other thing too. It's like if I'm putting out there and I'm saying, hey, look, this is an opinion. Here's my opinion. And mic drop.
What do you reckon?
You know, am I assassinating someone's character? Am I doing all those things? Not in the post. I may feel that personally, but like, what's the problem with saying like, hey, I don't agree with that, and therefore I'm a bad person because someone gets someone moving? And the whole thing just feels very virtue signally, and sort of honestly, it doesn't feel genuine. Because I think a lot of people who feel that way, if you honestly ask them, hey, well then why don't you do it? They would say, I'm not fucking doing that. That shit's stupid. It's like, okay, well then what are we talking about here? You know?
I also think like I really got comfortable with it. I didn't get comfortable with this thought process until like literally last week, where I was like, am I shitting on like the split squats and the tip raises literally just because I think it's too popular? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm kind of fine with that. Like, I just think, you know, at school, when someone says a joke and it lands and people are like, that was a pretty good joke. But then like you're 6 months deep, people have been saying the joke, you've been hearing it just 10 times a fucking day. And you just get to move by,
enough's enough.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. You said it too much. A tip raise is a good exercise. Yeah.
Yep.
Because moving your body is good. You can jack off. We don't have people doing 10 reels a day about, if you jack off, well, that's a lot of little elbow pulses. And, it's a lot of, what's wrong with that? You're really going to demonize jacking off?
Their heart rate, didn't it? I mean, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. I've just got to the point where I'm like, there's just cultural aspects to this that I don't like S&C is being cucked and sterilized. I don't know. I'm done. Sorry. I'm digging my way out of this spot. I had so many better things to talk than like
we always end up here.
Philosophy. And I know shitting on sisters is part of it. I'm emotional right. What I do want to talk about, which is going to be valuable as well as entertaining to our listeners, is when I talk about I love discussing bare bones speed training.
Yeah.
My whole thing's GPP. I'm trying to run a sub 12. Sorry, I'm trying to improve my track times. But whenever I talk to experienced speed or track coaches, they're always coming at it from the perspective of, oh, this is all you're going to do. I'll be honest, surfing's my top fucking priority. I have other priorities that are pushing up, like my Olympic lifting, that are pushing up on my track priorities as well. And I feel like whenever I ask someone for advice, they really struggle to contextualize it for me. And I know that your context is different, but I know that it is highly constrained. And from what I see of you, there's a bias towards earlier aspects of acceleration or just acceleration in general. And yeah, the exposure to maybe the upright or max velocity seems lower dose. I also know you love your locomotive plyos, and I do. I feel like I use locomotive plyos to supplement the top speed stuff because I know track coaches will pull their hair out and be like, that's not max velocity. Hopping isn't max velocity. I'm like, yeah, but in terms of building the qualities, like that's my bet that I'm taking. Like I don't have room in my program for much max V. I also don't have any of the physical qualities for it. So I'm going to use locomotive plyos to do that. And I feel like there is a bit more space for early excel. What are your thoughts on a model like that? And I'm sorry for like the baited and fully loaded question. But again, these are thoughts that I've gathered from watching you.
Totally. So, I think I do a lot more max V than I post. Now, there's also an aspect to it where a lot of it is I'm limited to space and other constraints. So like, we can do a fly 10 with a 10-yard build, but that's not max velocity. And what I've started doing recently, and I need to do a better job. In fact, this conversation is going to make me start posting more of this. But we've got a field at Collective. It sucks. Anyone at Collective listening to this, if you're in management or you're on the joint, I'm sorry, I love you. The field sucks. But I've been taking guys out. We've got a big parking lot, 60 yards. We've been running concrete, baby. And I've been setting up the lasers and we're doing fly 20s and we're racing, and particularly high school athletes, we're talking shit. And then the other aspect that's happening here soon, because I have in the past year really come to understand that max velocity is a necessity. And I got that from the combine prep work that So it's like, okay, you've got to get it in.
Logistics, the early Excel bias.
It is. It's more logistics. I can do that a couple times a week. Max velocity also,
they're not going to run into the wall. Like they don't even have to decel much because again, you can
100%. So that we're getting we're getting exposures, but the only way to get max velocity is to get max velocity, and that's it. I wish that there were a different way, but like
such a spicy meatball.
It's getting thrown back in my face constantly. Like fuck, it is what it is. Now making it fun. I found, is it that hard? I've got a free lap time system, and I've been doing this with myself and a lot of the high school athletes regularly. I've got like a little speed camp going on right now. We go out there, we run flying 20s with a 20-yard lead in or even a 30-yard lead in sometimes, and we talk shit and we gas each other up. And after every sprint, one of the high school kids holds the phone and has to yell out the time to the whole group, and everyone will be like, "Boo!" It's just fantastic. It's so good, dude. What was your original question? I'm sorry.
No. So I was talking about from my observation of you, there's an early Excel bias. And just talking about just bare-bones speed training.
That's a fair observation.
Very insightful.
That's a fair.
Hearing that, you actually do value max velocity a lot. You're looking for the opportunities, but then also acknowledge that it is just fucking hard. Like from a programming perspective, and even creating the environment for that to be a fun and enjoyable session, which we also.
I also do less volume of both than I used to. In fact, as an overarching theme, I've scaled back volume on everything except plyos. The volume I haven't scaled back much because I don't think that's. I think I kind of nailed it a little bit. Now it also obviously depends person to person and blah blah blah. But that was just one of those things. It's I just kind of stumbled into finding a good dosage with things. but I've been gravitating more towards like, I want to get effective doses. Once we get a few reps at or near like the best times, or God forbid if we hit the best time they've ever hit, we're done. That's it. Shut it down. Congratulations. I don't care how many reps we had planned. Like that was the win for the day. And leaving on a high note, baby. Like you fucking did it. Congratulations. Let that stimulus be the stimulus, and get out of there. Even with like my accessories and stuff, dude, like I have, maybe you posted about this. It was fucking you, dude. So like even in my cheat code, like the way I have my online program design, the accessories, the way it's written is let's say it's 3x10. You use the heaviest weight possible for 3 sets of 10.
Yeah, brother.
With good form. And then when you can do that, the next week you come in, you add 5 fucking pounds, no excuses. You just, you know what I mean? Strength,
but for accessories and pumps.
Yes, dude, yes. And like now, depending on, like, I find I gravitate that more towards that with younger athletes, because there's so many wins to be made there and so many good coordination gains to be made from, and just like buy-in and like falling in love with the process of getting stronger in the weight room and all that stuff. In NFL off seasons and stuff, like these guys, I want the main stimulus to be from the sprint or from the plyo or whatever. And so with the accessory stuff, I'll back off a little bit and I'll move more towards an RIR.
It's like you're a chef. Because they talk about that like a lot in cooking shows. They're like, you've got like this crazy steak and then you just had too much going on around it. You didn't let that steak speak for itself. So like you're always, most sessions for you, there's just like this primary goal. And you're like, whatever the hell else we're doing, like, yeah, we'll try to tick those boxes, but this is it. Like, this is what we
100%. And like some days you get good days where it's like, maybe it ends up being 2 things. The energy, things are just going well. Guys are feeling good. Guys or gals, as the case may be. But yeah, for the most part, it's like, hey, like here, like if it's a max velocity emphasis day, the max velocity is the emphasis. Everything else, I want it to go well, and I want us to smash weights, and like I fucking love that. And it's also good for the people who love that, because not everyone gives it. Maybe they're not jazzed up about the max velocity. I don't want to shit on their parade just because I wanted it to be the, you know what I mean? Yeah. I do. I have come to adopt a philosophy that whatever the emphasis, I try and make that the emphasis. And I don't devalue the other things. They're just as important. But I want to make sure that like the main thing is the main thing. Yeah.
Bit of an odd segue into this question, but I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on it. It's not even the answer to this question. It's the discussion it's going to lead to, I guess. I saw a post as my business becomes more and more underpinned by social media. I just think about social media and I'm like, what are meta stocks at? Are they going up or down? Like, I feel like it's this naive attitude to assume that the landscape is not going to change, because it always sort of is. Something I saw that genuinely scared me a bit the other day, for about 5 seconds, was IG is going to trial unskippable ads. This wasn't like official from like Meta or anything like that, but it didn't look too clickbaity. And I'm like, that seems like one of the most potentially disruptive things Instagram could do to piss off its users. But then again, I also sort of back Instagram to not want to completely shag itself through its own chest. So I'm sure if it was that bad, they'd take it off. But what are your thoughts on, like, how do you view the role of social media in your business? Are you sort of one of those people where you're like, oh, it's gravy on top? It's been awesome, like, and it's so good having this following, but like ultimately my work at Collective, like, I know if Instagram gets deleted, that's still there? Or you're like, no, it is part of my vision for the future. Do you think about diversifying through YouTube and other platforms? Give me your thoughts on that.
So, I think, so to answer short answer, it's a huge part of what I do. And long-term, the biggest part of what I want. I want to be able to train the people in person that I'm just excited to train, that I want to train at the times of years that I want to train enough because I love it too much. I don't know that I'll ever get to a place where I'm walking away entirely. And, you know, maybe 15, 20, whatever. I do make that decision right now. That doesn't sound appealing to me. I like being in the fucking mix. I like talking shit with the athletes. I like joking around. I like hanging around and, you know, fucking off in between. I love all of it, man. I love watching a guy rip a power clean, like, let's freak it, you know, all of it. But it's the sweetest, dude. It's the best thing. Someone asked me the other day in a show, they're like, so what are your thoughts on Olympic lifts? And, you know, I said, we power clean because it fucking rocks. That's why we do it, dude.
It's so cool.
We do it because it's sick, dude. Yeah, I don't.
No one's doing trap bar jumps in their dreams.
Rate of force development and the difference between the fuck all that. Have you been in the room with 20 people standing around one guy and he rips a power clean PR? That's it, you know. And everyone likes to get on their high horse and be like, you know, the implications in training and was this day necessary? It's like, yes, it was. You weren't there, and I bet you haven't been in that room. The vibes are tremendous.
Vibes.
It's the vibe. Half my life is for the vibes. So,
dude, power planes, resisted acceleration, and some locomotive pliers. Finish off with a bicep pump. Forget death row meals. That's my death row sesh.
Angus, you're speaking my whole program. You know what I mean? We can get effective, good training done. We can do it, and there's room for other stuff. You know, we can make this thing sweet. So anyway, yeah, like social media, you know, growing the Coach 'em Up podcast, growing my Instagram page, growing my online business is the goal. And like when people get asked these questions, like, oh, they do the thing where like, oh no, you know, I'm just a training purist. And it's like, no, fuck that. I want to be clear to everyone listening. I want to be rich. All right. I want to make as much money. Who the fuck? Listen, I want to be successful. I want to like pay for my daughter to go to college. I want to drive a nice vehicle. I want to eat. I want to take Kelly out to dinner whenever the fuck you know what I mean? I want to be successful. It's important to me.
Yeah, good luck out earning your misso now.
It's never going to happen. But it's the if you aim for the moon, you land among the stars sort of thing. 100%. So don't get it twisted.
Always
like, yeah, my goal is to grow as much as possible, be as profitable as possible, grow my social media as big as possible because it's a new thing that's challenging and exciting to me, dude. It fires me up just the same way those early days of training and wanting to get to what I thought was the top all those years. And it feels like a new frontier and this new space that's always changing, that's always going to have new challenges and ways that I can reinvent myself. And I think it all comes back around to what we're talking about earlier. I genuinely believe, much like I've seen Kelly do, that there's a way to do that, to take it as far as you want to take it and do it the right fucking way. And I think people can look at you and say like, hey, here's an example of a motherfucker who kept it real and did it right and stuck to his guns. And when he was wrong, said, I fucked up and you know, whatever. Like and maybe it's a fairy tale. Maybe, I don't know, but I'm going to try. I'm going to fucking try.
It's one of the best things
you have to believe in it enough to have it go.
Yeah.
You have to.
Happen in life. Yeah.
And again, shout out to Kelly because she made it. You know, seeing her, it's like oh, it's real, it's doable. She did it in her space, you know. So I'm gonna do it in mine.
I was lucky because like Kelly, you worked together before you started dating, right? Yeah, right. Like I didn't end up dating James Smith, unfortunately. But, I watched him have his blow up and do it with a certain level of integrity when it came to like every other diet coach was like, no, it's your blood type. It's not about like getting your calories under control. Whereas he just came with like a bit of tough love. He just was like, no, you can be the biggest personal trainer in the world. Just saying what actually works. Who would have thought?
Yeah, it's got to keep it real.
Revolutionary. And again, he went out of his way. I don't know if he viewed what he did as like propaganda creation. Because like, I can make sick content. Again, most of the people who are trying to make sick content are charlatans because that's what they're sort of naturally gravitated towards. But if you're there, it's like a genuine, authentic person who's trying to do their best. It's like, put some fucking effort into trying to make some fire content. Because like I said, otherwise it's just FP making fire sizzle reels. Like, you got to be able to compete with that. Yeah, dude, you know what the other thing is? Okay, one last, we need to wrap this up. This is just me venting. Where I feel like good S&C brands has failed is in creating community, because I just think certain brands through community snatch up all the lonely men, male particularly S&C coaches. And they're honestly there for community. I swear they know it's bullshit. I had this moment recently. Sleepless nights, man. I've been having sleepless nights. Man, why are these things so big? I feel like what I do is really cool and resonates with people. But you have to have it all there. You have to have the certifications. You have to have the fucking short form content across multiple platforms. You got to have the vlogs dropping. You got to have the podcast coming out. You got to have the fucking shirts and yeah, I see you doing it. I'm trying to do it, but like
you're doing it though, dude. I love seeing it. Your growth has been awesome, and dude, don't stop making content the way Angus makes content. I fucking love it. It's your content is just, I still believe, I'm going on record, it's still underappreciated. It's so awesome all the time. When I wake up in the morning, I have my morning ritual. I have some prayers and just set things that I do. I try and get on the beam. And then the first thing I fucking do is open Instagram. And I love it. It's like there's some jerk off doing something stupid. And I see it's your page and I'm like, incoming. Here we go, baby. And it always hits just right, Angus. It really does. Okay. It's great.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I would ask you for your top 5 favorite athletes, but I'm actually going to go back and listen to the last episode and see what they are. I'm trying to think, for our lightning round, we have brought back Death Row Meal, which I'm assuming is just burying you in rotisserie chicken.
Yes.
The rotis don't miss, baby. Hopefully, guys, actually good news. The website it's complete. The shirts are all done. We're going to be launched, I believe, next week. So I'm super excited. You guys send me your addresses. You're getting shirts for sure.
Okay, and as of the release of this episode, the thing should be live. So we'll have a link. Scroll down to the show notes. If you're as passionate about rotisserie chickens as we all are, you got to do it.
Tim, in Australia, when there's no rotisserie chicken at Coles, you can go to the back room and they'll give you a voucher for a free one next time.
What?
It's sick down here. Yeah.
That's incredible. What? I didn't know that.
Yeah, if they don't have it, if they don't have it in like the Bain Marie where it keeps it warm, you go to the back and say, hey, there's no chicken here. Free one on the house next time you come through. Yeah.
That's the real cheat code. That's the real cheat code. Fuck my program. That is the cheat code success, dude.
Yeah.
Holy
shit.
I mean, because Costco, they're not running out. Like that's just not happening. Yeah.
No. They've got an army of just steroid and antibiotic injected chickens ready to roll, baby. Those things are huge.
And juicy.
That's my America.
That's right. Capitalism at its finest.
So, Tim, if you want to be followed, where can people find you? Where's the content coming from? And have you got anything coming up that people should be excited about other than rotisserie chicken shirts?
Yeah, so I've got the RDM, Rotis Don't Miss brand, and all the shirts that are going into
adventure. Like
it is. It's becoming it. We'll see if the shirts sell well. I'll continue to push the lever. I'm also thinking of having a pre-workout that's going to be called, it's RDM, and call it Bussenberry. I want to lean into the Gen Z thing because I've got a shirt that's called it's like instead of Riz, it's Rotizzler, and it's like a fuckboy chicken with the hanging earring and the broccoli.
That's golden.
Hair.
I thought you were gonna say like it's chicken skin flavored pre-workout or something.
Honestly, that's better.
Like just this savory caffeinated broth.
It's like you open it and like the pre-workout mist comes up and it's just the strong scent of a freshly cooked rotisserie chicken. So yeah, I have the rotisserie chicken shirts coming out. Buy them.
The world's first warm pre-workout.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. It should come in a rotisserie chicken bag. It's just a bag of pre-workout. Yeah, and you can find me at Tim Riley Trading on Instagram and TikTok, and then on YouTube you can find me at Tim Riley Training, and then coach him up. Yeah, did you like that? It seems like we have mutual feelings. And then at at Coach 'em Up podcast on Instagram and YouTube. I'm most excited about that. We've gotten some sponsors recently. We're super excited to partner with. And my goal, I started Coach 'em Up 3 years ago, and it was a shitty YouTube channel thing, and it was just me, and I didn't have a microphone and a cell phone.
Grant Fowler.
My dog, he knows. And I always wanted to do this thing where I could go work out with coaches and learn from coaches. And that's, the workout piece is coming. We're about to have it where it's going to be like people come to Austin, they hang out with us for 2 days. We fucking rip iron and fucking eat barbecue. And then we rip a pod and we document kind of the whole thing. And so that's the dream. So Coach 'em Up podcast, it's still just a podcast right now, but hopefully that we've got that motherfucker ripping and everyone loves it. So
Jesus Christ, you have some shit to do.
I'm busy, but I'm so fortunate, and it beats being up for 3 days drinking and doing blow and waking up because I'm missing work at the restaurant on Monday and getting fired, boys. So we've come a long way.
And still a hell of a long way to go. All right, end recording. That was deep.